What's going on, Colts Nation? I'm Lawrence Owen. With me, as usual, is my guy, Loyalist. Yeah. And I am about this close to going, no, we ain't talking about our defense. We're talking about how Frank Reich got robbed down there in Carolina with, giving up 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and DJ Moore to go get a quarterback that may or may not be okay. That seem a little bit out there for me. But that's a topic for another time, possibly in an hour or so. I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right. But right now, we are going to be talking about the Indianapolis Colts defensive offseason moves as per me and Loyalist. And we'll obviously be getting into the chat with you guys, see what you guys think that we should actually do. I had a great conversation with Robert Mathis today about what he thought the Indianapolis Colts should do this offseason, about some moves, who's in the draft, who we should bring back and re-sign, things of that nature. But guess what? You're not going to see that till next week.
Unless, there you go. $5 a month, my guys. $5 a month, and you'd already know unless you're me. Because I wasn't going to watch it because I knew we weren't going to talk about it. And I'm not going to be sitting here through the whole show going, holding in all. But yeah, $5 a month.
It is already uploaded to my Patreon right now for Patreon subscribers only to watch that show that drops next week. Tom, I see Tom in here. Mm-hmm. Tom, did you watch that yet? I'm just curious.
He better not. He's supposed to wait for me.
I won't say anything then. I won't say anything then. Okay.
You were supposed to wait, Tom.
Oh my goodness. I've been blessed with great guests this past, month, right? And it's just going to keep going. I love working with Believe and the ability to be able to go out and get guests. But right now, we need to talk about the defense right now. And the most important part of this defense was already kept. Yeah. Gus Bradley. All right. Gus Bradley and his coaching, the entire coaching, he's kept them all.
Yeah.
That's what shocked me, in all honesty. I usually, after the first year, the defensive coordinator comes in, he starts tweaking a little bit, Yeah. And then after he was hired, they announced, all right, everything's set. I'm like, they're all the same people. That's freaking awesome. That's continuity from year to year, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. Gus is like the band was playing such sweet music that we just went ahead and kept with the band. So heck yeah, Cato June, Mike Mitchell, outstanding.
All them guys.
Yeah, and now we hopefully, God willing, and Shaq in there plugged in. We get to see how he can elevate this, and not to mention all the guys that we're bringing back, and some that we're hopefully going to re-sign. We'll talk about that here in a minute, though.
Absolutely. Now, so with that being said, that actually, to me, in my thought process, makes re-signing guys that we may want to keep easier. All right. Mm-hmm. Because of the familiarity of the defense and because it is the same coaches, and like certain people are here because of the coaches that are here. So, some of these guys will probably want to go ahead and re-sign. Now, some may not. Some may be like, nah, it's the same tune. I didn't get the snaps or I didn't play well under that, and I'm going to use that as an excuse to leave or want to leave, ask to be traded, whatnot. That is what it is. All right. But first and foremost, I want to go ahead and get into it. Let's talk about the safeties, okay? Because the Indianapolis Colts do have a couple safeties that are free agents this year. We need to know, do we keep these safeties? The first and foremost is, or not foremost, but the first one I want to talk about in order of, his name comes first on the list alphabetically, is Armani Watts. He's 27 years old, unrestricted free agent. Do you think we bring him back?
Honestly, this isn't a needle mover either way. He was a special teams guy. If Chris Ballard still feels the same after the injury that he felt going into last year, You bring him in on a low end contract. I mean, special teams is important to this team and roster. You know what I mean? So, and let's be honest, we didn't get to see what he looked like under Bubba Ventrone last year because that injury happened so early. So, yes, no, I don't know. This is really just, can we find another guy that can fill in that Odom role? You know what I mean? That super stud at the special teams level, and then as a fourth safety backup. You know, so like I said, where's the injury? Where's he at in his rehabilitation and stuff? But I don't think so. You know what I mean? Just because of the injury and what they lost in him last year. But that's I'm like 49-51. You know what I mean? Percentage wise.
I will say that the one thing that Ballard and his scouting team does an amazing job of in drafting in the draft is finding special teams aces, right? Late in the draft, right? Whether it's, 6th, 7th round, or even, UDFAs, right? A lot of his special teamers that are aces come from the UDFAs. I like Armani Watts and what he provided from the special teams and, his attitude out there on the field, but I think he can be replaced cheaply, right? So I don't think he probably gets re-signed, at least not with the Indianapolis Colts. I expect Armani, even, with his rehabilitation and stuff, he'll probably end up signing with somebody later on. But right now, I think the Indianapolis Colts, with the depth at safety that they have already, they can just move on from Armani. The other safety, obviously, as many of you know, is my co-host over there on Believe in Colts, Rodney McLeod, who will be 33 years old this year. But my goodness, he didn't play like he was 33 years old last year, did he?
No, especially for the first time as a box safety. I mean, the dude was a beast. And I would love, as a fan, as a Colts guy, I would love to bring Rodney McLeod back. But I also sit there and think that Rodney may be looking at that, like you said, he's getting towards the tail end of his career. He might be ring chasing a little bit, or at least put him in a better position. Because let's be honest, you look at the Colts, you see rookie head coach, rookie quarterback. It's like, is this really a contending team in 2023? But another thing is, you sit there and you think about, you bring Rodney in, you lessen the snaps for your young talent. Whether it's Nick Cross is the one that I think of mostly when it comes to that, would it lessen him there? But then I also think, what's going to happen with Kenny Moore? Do we need to move Blackman to slot corner? Are we going to, so that's where it's like, it's a tight wire act. How important is it, or does Rodney just love this group and also feel like Gus does? Does Rodney want to bring the band back together? Or is he more interested in looking for a contending team and stuff? So this one, to me, I think is more of a Rodney McLeod question than it is a Colts question. What say you?
I think the Colts would be willing to bring him back. As you said, it's up to Rodney. I think the ball is in his court. He played outstanding last year in the box, and even when he wasn't in the box, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, when he was playing sideline to sideline in the backfield, I thought he played incredibly well. His veteran leadership out there on the field shined through. He did an amazing job. The combination of him and Gilmore, the two new OGs on the team, basically really stood out and provided our secondary with more oomph than what we have had in years. But like you said, Rodney might be ring chasing, and I would not blame him. Yeah. Granted, he's already got a Super Bowl ring under his belt with the Philadelphia Eagles, but at the tail end of his career, maybe he's looking to go get another one. But if he wants to stick around for a fair deal with the Indianapolis Colts, because he's stated multiple times, he likes the organization, he likes the city, he likes the players that are around him, the coaches that are there. He likes the whole organization. So I think there is a possibility he could stick around and his veteran leadership could be used again. Again, I personally am a little bit, one-sided on this. I kind of want to keep Rodney for a reason.
You're skipping the lead. Tom says it right here. Rodney's going to want to come back so he can keep building on that podcast future and stuff and working with you. But no.
Well, if he does, he does. Yeah. And I would be. If he came back and used that as the excuse,
hey, mic drop for you and the Believe Network. So
right,
there you go.
right. I don't. Yeah, that's not the case. That would be a kind of a flying joke across the league, apparently. At least that's how I would take it. But I would be honored to have him back. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And no matter what happens, whether Rodney will always be a Colt. He came in, he stepped in one of our darkest years, to be honest. And he really helped unite that defense early on in the season. And man, just think of how much advantage it was to some of these younger guys. And I'm not just talking about Rodney Thomas and Nick Cross. I'm talking about Julian Blackman, some of the cornerback. I mean, Rodney McLeod, as you guys know, watching Lawrence and him, he brings a girth of just valuable information. So, like I said, I'm either way, Rodney, I'm pulling for you, as long as you're not competing against the Colts. If you're against, but outside of that, I'm super pumped for whatever he chooses. Good luck.
All right, moving on to the cornerback position. We got 2 free agent cornerbacks this season. Right now, we got another special teamer who did get to play a few snaps last year at the cornerback position when we had some injuries going down. Tony Brown, who will be 27 this year. Again, good special teamer, and came in and played some important snaps on defense at times, especially late in the season.
Yeah. And honestly, I'll be quite honest with it. With the state of the cornerbacks room as a whole, I look at Tony Brown as I'm not saying that it's vital that you bring him back, but you need to bring somebody of that ilk to bring in and be a number and a youth, and like you said, he was very tough in the special teams. So that you find the right number or whatever, but if not, then you need to definitely find a replacement for him, because let's be honest, after 2023, Kenny Moore is no longer under contract. Stephon Gilmore is at the end of his contract. I mean, we're looking at Isaiah Rodgers and going, can you cover all these spots? So to me, Tony Brown, it's not an absolute necessity as far as him specifically, but if it's not him, you need to find somebody who is valuable in special teams and also is a solid number 3, number 4 type of cornerback, in my opinion.
I think Tony Brown is brought back.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's brought back at a vet minimum, which is, going to be a little over $1 million a year, probably a 2 or 3 year contract, because he is still young enough and he is still very good at the special teams. He'll get paid less than what Odom got, and Odom threw a fit. But then again, Odom was all pro at that position on special teams. So, but Tony still does a solid job, and our special teams was one of the best units. I'd hate to see that broken up too much. I would keep Tony Brown on a vet minimum contract. Moving on to the other cornerback that is a free agent. He stepped in last year with Gus Bradley coming over from the Raiders. Brandon Facyson. He'll be 29 this year. He was paid $3.8 million last season. I know a lot of Colts fans do not like Brandon Facyson at all, but I think he really filled in a spot that was absolutely needed because he did know the system and was able to play and make good plays occasionally. For the most part, he did have a few times where he did miss some tackles in the open field, though. What are your thoughts on Brandon Facyson?
Well, I'm one of those guys. I'm not as high on Facyson as you have been, and I understand that, you know what I mean? But to your point, or to what I was saying even earlier, is just you look at the cornerback room and you look at value. He's you don't have to catch him up to speed. He could come in and plug in. I'm not paying him very much. You know what I mean? And honestly, I want to do everything I can through free agency and via the draft to do everything I can to where he's my emergency plan. He's my, like I say, he's competing for that. You better get a lot more special team snaps or you're not going to be on the 53 the entire season, because he was substandard in the run stopping for sure. But then to me, this is where we differ. I wasn't as high on his pass coverage as you were, or pass defense as you were. But yes, he did flash. He did make some plays. And this his role isn't as important this year to us as it was last year because we were bringing Gus and the new scheme and the tweaks and stuff. So Brandon Facyson was a nice interpreter for, to some of the guys that hadn't been in the system. Well, now these guys have had a year, and Brandon Facyson, that particular role with Gus isn't nearly as important. So, look through the cornerback in free agency, the cornerbacks in the draft. I mean, it's got me salivating just thinking about it. There's a lot of potential in there, you know what I mean? So I'm not on board with bringing them back unless, like I said, you super low contract just as an insurance plan more than anything.
I don't expect Brandon Facyson to be brought back. I feel like that Chris Ballard loves drafting cornerbacks, and it's that and pass rushers, right? And linebackers. He loves all three. He loves drafting defense, hardcore, and he's pretty good at the linebackers, I would say. Cornerbacks, he's had up and down situations with that. There's a couple cornerbacks that right now are playing pretty darn good, and a couple cornerbacks that just aren't doing so well, but they were drafted for a different system, like Nate Hairston and them, Mm-hmm. They were drafted for the 3-4 system rather than the 4-3. But yeah, I don't think he'll be back. I think that we'll probably pick up a free agent. We'll probably draft somebody, and they'll probably fight that out during training camp and OTAs. So
yeah, and you look at some of the what do they call them? Futures contracts. You look at some of the guys that we brought in, a lot of cornerbacks on those future contracts and stuff. So Chris Ballard is clearly aware that, this is a point of concern, which is good because sometimes I feel like I'm out on an island alone when I'm worried about these cornerbacks because everybody's like, we need a wide receiver. We need a defensive end. And yeah, I get all that. But man, if we lose Gilmore after this year, I just don't want to sit there and have this gaping hole at the end of 2023. That's all.
Yeah. Moving on to the next position group on the defense, you got the linebackers. And this is a point of emphasis. Bobby Okereke will be 27 this year. Last couple of years has really started to break out in the NFL, and I got a feeling he's going to be a bit expensive. He's going to demand somewhere between $12 and $15 million on the open market. And I don't think the Indianapolis Colts can afford that right now, especially at linebacker.
Yeah, this isn't a Bobby problem. This is a Colts problem. Bobby has done everything this team's asked of him. And to your point, he's really produced at a very high level. Let's realize, Bobby was he was a solo tackling machine last year. I can remember multiple times throughout the entire season where it was like, oh, that play's blown, that play is going for a big gain. And all of a sudden out of nowhere, here comes Bobby O, playing superhero. And so I absolutely love the young man. Hope that, if there's a way they could work it out and still not be overextended to that linebacker's position. But man, Chris Ballard is just so good at drafting at this spot. And this is another spot you look at. And the thing is that he's so good at it, whether it's picked in the second round or pick in the 7th round. Zaire Franklin was a beast this last year, who was a 7th rounder. Granted, he got extended, but I'm just saying the linebackers doesn't concern me because it's not, you look in the depth. You got JoJo Doman, there's another free agent that I'm sure we're going to talk about next that, so Bobby, you earned it, man. Go get your bag, do what you got to do. Maybe, he was really high on Richard Smith, the linebackers coach. Maybe that's something that, he's sitting there and he's like, because I love what Bobby said. He said, I'm going to look for a spot, but it's not all about the money. He wants to make sure it's the right fit and stuff. And then all of a sudden I hear in the background, Chicago. So Eberflus is over there probably waiting for Bobby O to come visit Chicago for a day.
Yeah, I got a feeling that Bobby Okereke is going to grant the Indianapolis Colts a compensatory pick next year. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to sign a nice fat contract, probably in Chicago, as everybody is suggesting. But do not, count out some other teams out there.
Oh, no.
There are definitely teams out there that could use a style that is Bobby Okereke. I mean, I could see the Panthers going after a guy like him. I could see quite a few guys going after Bobby Okereke. So, but either way, I could see us getting a 4th or even a 5th round compensatory pick for 2024 after Bobby Okereke signs his fat deal.
Yeah, because he's not. I mean, you remember, guys, he's played really well for the Colts as the Mike as well as the Will. Which I get it. The Panthers are not going to be running, right? Aren't they running the 3-4? So it'll be a different role for him. But Bobby's built for it. Yeah, he's got the speed, he's got the length, Lord knows he's got the intelligence and the grit. So yeah, Bobby could go fit into any scheme. Now, I mean, me personally, I love seeing him in the 4-3. I would hope that he found something to fit him there, just because that's what he's familiar with. But like I said, that's a Bobby question. I mean, that's something he's going to have to decide, because I'm sure if he came back to the Colts and said, I'll do 8.5 a year, Colts be like, come on in. But once you start getting into that 12 to 14 range, it's like, that's just too much with the Shaq contract and the Zaire contract to have in the linebacking room.
The next linebacker on the list is, and we've already talked about him, EJ Speed, a guy who will be 28 this year. He's older than Bobby Okereke. But, again, another guy who could do just about a lot of different things on this team, not just, defensively, but on special teams as well. This dude goes out there and just really produces very, very well this past 1.5 years, 2 years. He's gotten more and more snaps at the linebacker position on the defense, and when called upon, has played pretty darn good. I expect him to be signed. I don't think it's going to cost the Colts a whole lot of money to keep EJ. He'll probably get a 1-2 year deal, most likely, in my opinion, just so that he can come in. And because I'm not, this is another situation, right? Bobby O's leaving, but who's going to be in that spot, right?
Yeah.
And then Zaire is going to be the other guy that's most likely going to be on there, unless Zaire and EJ split reps, right?
Yeah. And see, the thing I like about EJ, first off, what was the first thing that fell off with this defense? Which, granted, it wasn't. I'm not saying that the defense went to crap. I'm just saying when they started struggling, or when the first thing that went was the run defense. EJ's really, really an asset in that run-stopping defense part of the defense. And then you sit there and you look at, if you can bring me personally, I'd like to see him bring him back for like a 3-year, like Zaire got. If you brought EJ back in 3 years, he gives you that security blanket for Shaq. So Shaq's not sitting there going, oh God, I've got to be rock and roll ready for, right at OTAs or something. You know what I mean? Shaq, get 100%, my guy. I get it. You're feeling better and everything, but I want, when Shaq gets out on that field, I want him to feel like, you know what, we got this. And if we had to sit there and look at a week, early part of the season where we're relying a little heavier on, Zaire and EJ Speed, I'm not going to sit there and act like the end of the world is here. You know what I mean? Yes, I think we'll fall off in pass defense, but yet still this cornerback and safety room can pick up some of that slack. I really hope we do bring him back because of all those reasons. But there again, I'm a little nervous. Is the market more robust for him? Because he didn't just flash. I mean, he was a dog, especially the second half of the season when he started getting a lot more of those reps, and he knew that he was going to be getting those reps. There was no more, is Shaq going to be able to make it back? Is Shaq not? When he knew that it was 100% his gig, he filled in very nicely. And I love his range and his speed. And he is just he's one of those guys, when he makes a tackle, he's trying to impose his will and inflict some pain on people. And I'm all about that.
Absolutely. 31 of you in here. Please smash that like button. Hit subscribe if you're not subscribed. Tag that notification bell so that you are notified next time we go live or upload a video. Guys, I see the chat. I'm keeping an eye on the chat. I can't comment too much on the chat because you guys, for the most part, aren't even talking about what we're talking about. All right. But I understand why. because of the news that dropped literally right before we went live.
4 minutes. 4
Yeah.
minutes. I was like, oh.
We will start talking about that right after we get done with talking with the defense and the reason of this stream, so that people, when they come in, can actually see, they're expecting to watch a video about this. If we're talking about quarterbacks, they're going to be like, what the hell? All right. So
how about this, guys? You guys just join us with this defensive conversation now. And then after we're done with this defense conversation, we'll reset and we'll just drop another one about the quarterbacks and stuff and be able to make that its own entity. But just join us, guys. Come on in. Join us in the conversation about defense and free agency for a minute.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'll drop, immediately. As a matter of fact, if you want, I'll start making the stream while you, Loyalist, spend 5-10 minutes at the end of this stream just jibber jabbering about whatever it is, is talking about, and then we'll just flip straight over.
Excuse me, sir. I do not jibber jabber. I
jabber
jabber. I jabber jibber. I do not jibber
okay,
jibber.
Whatever. Well, the Indianapolis Colts have a lot of jibber jabbers on the defensive line right now. 4 defensive ends and a defensive tackle are free agents this year. Are you kidding me? Our defensive line, half the defensive line are free agents. Half. What?
Yeah. All right,
Khalid Kareem, one of the defensive ends, will be 25, still very, very young, as a restricted free agent. Does he come back next year?
We'll see. I don't know. I really don't know about this, because the thing is can you find, there's a lot of talent in this draft. There's some interesting pieces in the free agency. So I'm really not sure where we're at. There again, he's going to be fairly inexpensive. It's his production. He didn't really wow me, on during the season and stuff. So I'm leaning towards no. But to your point, we can't sit there and just let them all go, because all of a sudden now our draft is defense. Oh, we don't need a quarterback, defense. So, fill in the 53. But there again, to me, I say no, because I feel like you can upgrade over his talent inexpensively through free agency as well as the draft.
I got a couple guys that I think there's going to be some guys that are going to be let go that need to be let go, and one guy who might not be back that I wouldn't mind having. And so at this point, Khalid, I really think that he probably is signed for a vet minimum. Again, restricted, so someone would have to match, and then, that situation, give the Colts a chance to maybe up the ante just a tad. Doubt that happens. I think Khalid would be cheap to come back. I think we sign him on a very cheap deal. The next guy on the list is Banogu. What? 27 years old, just turned 27 last month. He has been an absolute monster. Oh, talking about the wrong guy here.
Look at the notes again, Law. Look at those notes.
Absolute monster at the freaking fast food restaurants.
I thought you were going to call him a training camp monster, but yeah, he's one of those guys that just never. Honestly, the fact, and I try to be positive, but every time I've tried to be positive about this young man, I haven't found the right way to put it. So, Ben, I don't think he'll be back. Seen in here, if I can find it again. Oh well, yeah. Somebody said if Ben came back, he'd have to be question his Colts fandomhood. I'm not going to go that far, but I will say that Ben has made plenty of money for the Colts and not rewarded them as such. So I hope he has, a nice career and whatever his next endeavor is, but I don't think it'll be here with the Colts. Please.
No, I don't know. Ben Banogu, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. All right. That's all I got to say about that. The next guy I want to talk about is defensive tackle Byron Cowart. This is an interesting selection here.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be 27 this year. He's an unrestricted free agent. And a guy honestly, I don't think he lived up to the expectations.
Right.
I think I in my opinion, I don't think he's back with the Indianapolis Colts next year.
Okay.
You,
See, the thing is, I look at that and I'm like, he got a lot of snaps last year. Yes, he did not wow me by any means or anything, but
he did get some snaps though.
yeah. Well, for what his role was, I mean, he got more than what I expected. Because let's be honest, he's basically the guy in behind Grove, and we try to keep Grove on the field as long. Grove, 100% of the snaps, my guy.
No,
But,
I want him playing.
I know.
Speed, not 100%
I know.
snaps.
But like I said, Cowart, he may be one of those guys that you bring in and just as making the 90, but maybe not making the 53 type of thing. Because there again, he's a guy I don't think that a lot of people are going to go, ooh, Cowart's available. Let's go get him, and if they are, have at him. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit there and offer him a whole lot because, like you say, he's young. He's got some attributes that you're like, oh, I could see how this would work. It just never seemed to click this last year. You know what I mean? He did get snaps, but he wasn't really giving you productive snaps that gave you that replacement whenever you needed to give Grove a break or defo.
Yeah, I agree. Another guy who had a birthday last month is 28 this year, Tyquan Lewis. This is a guy I think the Indianapolis Colts need to sign to a 1-year deal, vet minimum, prove it deal. A guy who has had in back-to-back seasons, season-ending ACL tears on different legs. Okay,
but it was patella tendon.
Yeah, basically,
okay.
Bad knee injuries. Okay?
There you go.
Bad knee injuries. Okay, so either way. But when he was on the field, Lewis was a damn good player. Above average to good, in my opinion. Not Defo-esque, but, at that right under that level, right? He was good. He was a good player. He just had unlucky situations, very much like how Paris Campbell had during his first years, just unlucky situations with the injuries. Give him a cheap 1-year contract, bring him back. Hopefully he can get back to full health and maybe play a full season and earn himself a bigger contract later down the line.
Yeah, and see, I'm super high on Tyquan. He is. I've said this a couple times. He's my Paris. He's how Paris. I'm like, I'm not even going to talk about the injuries. I'm just going to assume that he's going to have a healthy season. It worked. Paris didn't miss a single game last year. So Tyquan's going to be my he's my 2023 Paris Campbell replacement. He's a guy that I would like to bring back, a very incentive-laden contract, but I wouldn't mind even bringing him back for a couple years. You know what I mean? Because like you said, he's 28. He's going. You get him into 30 years of age or whatever. And I'll be honest with you guys, when he's on that field, he brings that grit factor. He brings that dog mentality to this defense. And man, he's so good in pass defense as well as run stopping defense. And he can play all up and down the line. You want him on the outside? Gotcha, coach. I'm there. Boom. You want him on the inside? Defo, go take a break. Gotcha. Even the one tech. I mean, it's not his ideal spot, but if you're going, your NASCAR package or whatever, yeah. If for some reason Grover's not there, Tyquan's definitely a dude I would love to plug in, and I'm a huge fan of him. Hey, we know how it is with Ohio State and the Colts. You got to let him get through a couple of years of injuries. He's done now. Now he's just ready to come out and have a stellar rest of his career and just as a man. I mean, just in the locker room, what he is and what he represents himself as. And I'm just a huge fan. I mean, this is one of those I couldn't be the GM for the Colts because I would sit there and give Tyquan, like I said, a multi-year deal. It'd be incentive-laden, but I would definitely bring him back, and it just really elevates that whole room if you do that.
Absolutely. The last guy on the defense that we got to make a decision on will be 28 in a month, and he had 9.5 sacks in 14 games last year, which is pretty darn good. As 9.5 is nothing to sneeze at, even with an injury at the end of the season that put him on IR. Yannick Ngakoue, ladies and gentlemen, he made $13 million last year. Market value's probably right around that right now. I think over the cap's got him sitting around 15. But I don't think that's what it's going to be the cost to bring him back. We do need an edge rusher.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of great ones out there in free agency to go grab that ain't over 30 besides Yannick. Even with, look, I don't even want Frank Clark. Okay. I know he was just released by the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Frank Clark's at the end of his career. Okay. So depends. I know that Gus stayed. This is a situation where we could probably bring Yannick at a fair price because he does like Gus Bradley. He loves that system. It's historical with that situation. We'll see what happens. If we do bring, it doesn't matter whether we bring Yannick in or not. We still got to draft a defensive end pass rusher because we're going to be light on that, even if we kept him, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing for me with Yannick is there again, I think the market's going to be robust, and I think the Colts are not going to be able to bid, so that's going to be on Yannick. How much does staying with Gus, staying with the familiar? I mean, because Yannick has not stayed anywhere in his career, Jacksonville, to I forget where it was, and it wasn't it the Chargers or something. And then he went to the Raiders. So he has traveled, and the thing is he's really spent a lot of time with Gus, so he knows what he gets there. But for me, I look at Yannick, and I'm wanting to make him more of a less snaps, bring him in much more in passing downs. If we re-sign Yannick, it doesn't change what I would want to do in free agency or the draft, because I do want to bring somebody who's better at the run stopping aspect of the game. I feel like Yannick got way too many snaps last year. I understand where the team was and stuff, but I mean, we've got Quiddy and Dio who are really starting to elevate their game. Give them more opportunities to get out on the field. Give them more shots at it. And then, like I said, make Yannick more of a rush specialist. Make him one of those guys so that when he's on the field, he's fresher, number one. And secondly, that's his sole focus. You know what I mean? And I like the numbers that he brings. I just want to sit there and be more important when he gets the numbers. You know what I mean? Yeah, he got 9.5 sacks, but it was a lot of times it was just sort of cleaning up stuff. I want to sit there and let him be fresh and just pin his ears back. One thing and one thing only on his mind, and that's killing the quarterback, or bringing down the quarterback.
I will say this. Yes, you are right, Joe. You are correct. A lot of his sacks were cleanup sacks. However, what we're not thinking about is the pass rush style that Gus Bradley has. The majority of sacks from all the guys across the defensive line were cleanup sacks because of the way the style is. These guys go in and create havoc in the backfield to make the quarterback move, and then another guy is there to clean it up, right? So even Defoe's sacks, a lot of those were cleanup sacks. Quiddy Pay's sacks, a lot of those were cleanup sacks, right? That's what the style is. This is not the same style that we're used to with Matt Eberflus and them, where you're just the edges crash in and the tackles stay put, right? Mm-hmm. This is a situation where the tackles go in and force the quarterback out to your edges, and the edges get those sacks, right? Yeah. So that he played into that style, and that's why he's actually, that it works with that style, and that's how I see it.
Yeah, and there again, he's another guy that really fit well with the community, so and fit well in that locker room. And how much is that? How important is that to these guys? You know what I mean? Because I get it. Everybody's like money, 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 and I get that. But let's be honest. When do you get to that point where it's no longer as much about the money as it is about the fit, about the comfort of living, about the security? And like I said, would Yannick be interested in bringing him in and just being more of a pass rusher specialist? Would he appreciate? Because what was it like? 71% of the snaps, or high 60 range, I think it was last year on defense. I'd like to get that down. I mean, get it down into the high 40s, 50 range, to where you're just sitting there and you've got a little more pop in your step, and man, this defense is going to only keep getting better because Chris Ballard is really, I believe, never going to ignore adding assets to this defensive line as long as he's a GM.
So now we're at the point where we're going to talk a little bit about free agency. Is there a guy in free agency that you feel like the Indianapolis Colts could go after? Now, there is a guy I want to talk about, and a lot of people are going to, as soon as I say this, they're going to go, no way, I'm not paying that kind of money for any defensive player, period, end of discussion. Listen to what I have to say, because first off, a certain Darius Slay has been given, he's been trying to get a contract reworked with the Eagles. It's not been going well. The Eagles finally said, you know what? Go seek a trade somewhere. He's getting on the backside of he's 32, I believe, 33, something around in that general vicinity. And the Eagles don't want to pay him very much money at all because they have a lot of pieces they have to re-sign on that team. Now, trading for him probably wouldn't take that much because this year's contract says $27 million. But there's a beautiful thing about $27 million. If you can restructure a contract, split that money down 3 seasons, and then void some seasons, which will basically cut the money off. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You can legitimately do that. People do that. No one is going to trade for Darius Slay and say, yeah, we'll pay you $27 million. Nobody. Okay. But if he could, I think he would be more than happy. I mean, especially if Rodney McLeod talks to him and says, hey, man, I'm telling you, this secondary for the Colts, pretty solid, fun unit to play with. And you pair him up with Stephon Gilmore, and that's just nasty. That's just nasty. That's lockdown, 1-2 outside cornerbacks, right? If he would be willing to do an extension with some voided years to cut that down to more manageable, say 12 mil, I'd be all for it. All for it, especially at his age. But we'll see what happens.
And I'm devil's advocate, whatever you want to call it. Ballard doesn't do that, though. He's not the guy who kicks the can down the road and stuff.
That's not kicking the can down the road.
Well, because you're still going to have to.
That's deleting money completely.
But you're still going to have to sit there and pay him, you know what I mean? Because, like I said, the guy's going to want paid. And you're sitting there saying you're going to spread it out over those years to make it a smaller cap hit. But the thing is if he only plays 1 year or 2 years with us, you're still going to have to even out that money whenever it's all said and done.
No, you void the last 2 years of that contract, and whatever money is on that contract is gone. You make it a roster bonus. And if he's not on the roster at that time on the voided years,
right? But why would he sign that? Why would he do that if he's already not happy with?
The NFL is going to pay him $27 million. No one, nobody.
Well, I don't know. I'll be honest with you. After that trade from Reich today, I don't sit there and think that I'm not ever comfortable with saying no team's going to do that because we've seen, not from Chris, but we've seen the stuff that happens around Chris Ballard a lot of times. Desperation makes some of these guys do some really wild things.
I'd be okay with making extending it to a 3-year contract and just taking that $27 million and bracketing it down. You know what I mean? Yeah. Bracketing it down, and that still paying $27 million, but over 3 years. Mm-hmm. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I guess I don't
fine with that.
I know from what I've heard about that situation in Philadelphia that it is a lot of money driven for Slay, and to me, I don't know where he would be at on that mentality. I guess is my question.
Yeah, that is a good question, but I mean, it doesn't hurt to go look at it and kick the tires.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's just like I sit there and tell people, the Lamar Jackson, I'm not on board with the move, but you got to do your due diligence. You got to go find out what's the limit, what's the breaking point and stuff, so that you have all the information to make the most complete decision that you can. And And that's what this time of year, that's what Chris Ballard does really well. So we'll see, I guess.
All right. Guys, 45 minutes in, 41 of you in here. Please smash that like button. We will have a new stream here shortly that will be specifically for what a lot of you are talking about. And I see some angry people in here over the fact that that the Panthers got it and that Ballard didn't make a move to go and over jump the Panthers. I got some vicious words for you. But we'll get into that on the next stream, which is very, very soon. Draft. Top 2 most important spots on this defensive side of the field that you think that Chris Ballard and his scouting units need to go out and grab guys in the draft for.
I know I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but even if you pick somebody up in the cornerback in free agency, you still need to draft somebody. I feel like, the need at cornerback, not as much this year as it will be going into next year. We don't know what Kenny Moore's situation is going to turn out to be. So cornerback and defensive edge, like always, we're always looking for pass rush. You get 2, you need 3. You get 3, you need 4. You can never have enough pass rushers.
Absolutely. All right, guys, appreciate you guys. You go ahead and get into the talk because I agree the whole pass rush situation, number 1, cornerbacks number 2. That's the way I look at it, right?
Okay, so I'm going to look, guys, don't get ticked off at me. Like I said, we hope that you join us back in the next stream when we start talking about the quarterbacks. But I'm going to just go through here and try to find some that are talking more about the what this show was about. And, here we go. Damn it. Appreciate you guys. It says linebacker and cornerback and interior D-line. Thing about linebacker, and I don't think it's nearly as high of a need, especially if you bring in EJ. Like I said, we got JoJo Doman. We've already got our 2 starters, in Zaire and Shaquille Leonard. So those, and yes, I'm not sitting there saying that they don't need to get a linebacker. My thing is you can sit there and find somebody that is a traits guy, more of a special team and develop him into a linebacker, because that's what this organization has been good at for a very long time. Joe Roche is in agreement with me. I appreciate that. Let's see here.
No. I just messed up.
Oh. Okay. Help me out here. No, that's all right. I'm just trying to. We're a bunch of quarterbacks talk here and stuff. Let's see here. Come on, guys. Wow. It's not that bad. I mean, I don't know. We've been saying all year long, let these guys stay at 4 and get what they need to get. And I still going to get a talented trade. I don't think Fleece. No, here we go again. All right, guys.
Keep talking.
Yeah, I'm looking for something.
Talk to them in the chat. Just discuss. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we've got, the quarterback stuff. I mean, yeah, this is not the desired outcome. Before we even started, I told Lawrence, I'm like, Frank Reich's getting his vengeance on the Colts. Okay. But like I said, I'm not that worried about this as far as, yes, we need a good quarterback, but I wasn't ever thinking that Chris Ballard was going to move up to 1. You sit there and you look at what the Panthers had to give up. Okay. I mean, they gave up a wide receiver, 2 first rounds this year and next year, and 2 second rounds this year and next year. I know how Colts Nation loves them picks. You know what I mean? And the thing is there's no way that you would want to sit. I mean, you guys remember how everybody reacted after Carson Wentz trade when it didn't pan out, and then we were like, "Oh, we don't have that number 1 pick anymore." Well, how would you feel if you made that trade and you'd be like, "Oh, I don't have my number 1 or my number 2 this year or next year," And none of these guys are a finished product. I don't care if it's Bryce Young. I don't care if it's CJ Stroud, AR-15 or Will Levis or even Hendon Hooker. None of these guys are finished products. So to sit there and give up that much, to me, you're saying that we're a quarterback away. Well, I guess we'll find out, unless there's just somebody that they were solely committed to. I see that, seen somebody say the Texans getting CJ Stroud at 2. That I don't think is going to happen just because you sit there and you look at the history between Stroud's agent and the Texans, and because the Stroud's agent was also Deshaun Watson's agent. So that was never a big concern for me. Do I think that, it's possible for the Panthers to go and get Stroud? Yeah, I do. And I understand that a lot of people, I'm much higher on Will Levis than a lot of people. And then you've got AR-15. I don't think, Lawrence said this real well earlier when we were talking. I don't think that the Cardinals are going to trade out of that spot because of their need at the defensive line. And at 3, they're basically, sitting in the catbird seat. They've got their pick, whether the Jalen Carter thing didn't sway them a whole lot or maybe Will Anderson's their guy. They're not going to want to trade very far and lose out on that. So to me, it's not ideal, because yes, now it's one less player that Ballard will have to choose from. But to sit there and look at AR-15 and what he's shown and what Will Levis has shown, these guys can come in and they can turn out to be somebody. They could turn out to be absolute ballers. You look at Patrick Mahomes. We were talking about that in Discord the other night. You had Patrick Mahomes and you had, who was it? Joe Burrow and all these guys. Patrick Mahomes slipped all the way down to like 14 or something. Nobody thought that he was going to be what he ended up being in the league. You get these guys that have traits, you plug them into an organization that nurtures them and gives them all the things that they need. And I'm telling you right now, you can turn these guys into very viable candidates. Now, I'm not sitting there saying that they're going to be Peyton Manning or anything like that. But what I am saying is they can play winning football. Okay. So if Bryce Young and CJ Stroud are gone, and like I said, the Cardinals pick at 3, you still got 2 very physically gifted with their arm, with their, mentality and stuff. Yes, it's going to take a little more work than what a CJ Stroud would have taken. Who knows, guys? We don't even know. Maybe Frank Reich's over there going, I like me some Will Levis. And then you guys are going to be fine with it because nobody wants Will Levis other than me and a few of us. You know what I mean? So all I'm saying is I get that it's not the desired outcome, but it's not the end of the world, guys. It really isn't. These guys are Tom. There you go. That's what. You just need to put me in a medically induced coma. All right. So Tom's not going to be at Patreon next week is what I'm hearing. But yeah, like I said, guys, this is far from over. You know what I mean? Does it force the Colts to move up to 3? We'll see. You know what I mean? But hey, Basil, I see that you're bummed that you missed this one. You can rewatch this one. Just want to let you know. We're going to sit there. Lawrence is setting up the stream now. We're going to finish this stream, but then we're going to come back and start talking about the quarterbacks and the news because all this stuff came out literally. We already had this stream set up and we were talking, and all of a sudden I'm like, "Did you see what happened?" And Lawrence was like, "Yeah, I just saw it myself." So we weren't really we didn't have this show set up for that. So we will go 10 minutes, Lawrence, after this is over. We'll probably be back
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. Okay.
Eastern.
I'm running out of jabber jibber, my guy.
I understand that. I'm almost done. So
Joe Rose, he says, Frank Reich even threw in a bag of chips for that. And that's the thing, guys. The amount that they had to give up is just astronomical. Astronomical. And, DJ Moore is no slouch. There you go. Thank you. Thank you, Kellen. DJ Moore was one of their best talents. What that move by Frank Reich says is Panthers are in a total rebuild. You know what I mean? They're like, okay, we're just going to sit here and start really throwing the kitchen sink at this thing. And I get that. That's what, some of these teams do and stuff, but that's not Chris Ballard. Never has been, never will be. But the thing is Chris Ballard finds ways to navigate these situations and get the Colts where they need to be and stuff. So my initial reaction was crap. You know what I mean? I'm not going to pretend like I was happy about it. But my point is I've always said that there was not any of these quarterbacks that me personally, I wanted to sit there and jump up to 1-4. This team had too many holes to sit there and give up all of that draft capital. So think of it this way, Gold Station. The Panthers just did you a favor because now you don't have to fret over it until draft day. Now you already know that that's the situation. And I don't see Ballard giving up a lot of assets. You know, I mean, now you've got the AR-15 group that should be ecstatic, unless maybe that's who Frank Reich loves. You know, we can't even pretend to know what Frank Reich and that Panthers organization is wanting because, quite honestly, we haven't ever seen Frank Reich with a young rookie quarterback. You know, his experience here was not that at all. In Madden, he's amazing. Appreciate that, Zero. Let's see. Really? Okay. Basil in here saying he thinks Anderson will be a bit of a bust. I'll tell you right now, you know, that's I don't think that'll have to affect us a whole lot because I don't know that he makes it past the Cardinals in the NFC, you know. So there again, Panthers are going to be a run-heavy team. Chubb Hubbard. All righty. Reich will be 70 by the time they're rebuilt. Hey, Reich's young at heart, though. Like I said, I hope them the best of luck. You know, I mean, I did tell Lawrence I felt like this was sort of a FU to the Colts a little bit. But, you know, I get it, you know, that's probably not that as much as just where they felt like they needed to go for their team. I want JT and AR. See, and that's the thing, you know, if we sit there and get Anthony Rodgers at 4 without giving up all that capital, I think he's more ready to play than a lot of people do. No, I don't sit there and think that he's going to be a plug-and-play guy. But what I'm saying is it's not the end of the world because this dude, first off, is going to be the absolute most dynamic option out of this draft. Whether he gets to that potential is a big question mark. But to sit there and say, to me, I was questioning sometimes was if we took CJ Stroud, were we being too safe? If you took AR-15, were you swinging for the fences and going for everything? And that's what I want. I want to sit there and have a shot to be able to compete against the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs and the Cincinnati Bengals because I do not want to keep being that team that, we're in the playoffs, but with no hope of getting any further. And Steichen, I am so pumped about what Steichen can bring to this team and this leadership. And I felt like the coaching staff that he put around him, a lot of young, vibrant guys, I felt like they were like, hey, you know what, we're going to be able to make any of these guys studs. So now the thing is yes, I'm not going to pretend like I'm not still hyped for CJ Stroud. If it happens, that's great. But CJ Stroud, AR-15, Will Levis, only one I'm not really super pumped about, I would take some having to convince is Bryce Young. And it wasn't because of his talent as much as just about the physics of it. You know what I mean? Little man versus a lot of big men. Panthers going to be climbing that mountain.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to go live right now to go talk about that. Please don't forget to smash the like button, hit subscribe if you're not subscribed, and tag that notification bell so that you are notified next time we go live or upload a video because we're going live right now. 1 minute.
I need 5.
Until next time, I'm Lawrence Owen. That's Colts Loyalist. And as usual, I want you. Have a good one.
Just because a player's not a household name doesn't mean we can't make him a household name.
Yeah, I think the Indianapolis Colts will have a pretty darn good defense next year. I'm really happy that they was able to keep a lot of the guys. We'll see what happens with free agency. Please keep some of these dudes. We need it. Talk to you in a bit. Have a good one.